John Lowe has served our country in the military for many years and also has experience in the technology world. Now he wants to bring those experiences to Columbia to serve as the next state senator for District 38. I speak exclusively to John for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. John Lowe, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You're very welcome. I understand that obviously you're a Democratic candidate for South Carolina State Senate District 38, and I know that you have worked in the technology operations and management world for over 10 years, and obviously you've worked in free industries, and you are a 10-year veteran of the United States Navy, submarine service, and other military dignitaries. Who is John Lowe in the technology world, in the military world, and in the community?
Wow, it's the same John Lowe, Quintin. This guy doesn't change. I've been in the technology and operations industry for about 30 years. My last major gig, so to speak, was with Charleston County School District as a projects director and technology manager. Prior to that, I was with the Jasper County School District, which is also K-12 education, as a technology director. Prior to that, I was in technology services with the State Department of Education. Prior to that, military industry, defense industry with General Electric Corporation, and prior to that, 10 years of military time. So the entire stint was technology of some sort.
Let me ask you this, Mr. John. Why politics? Why South Carolina State House? Why District 38?
All good questions. Politics, because I've retired from my civilian career now. I spent many years making that dollar, trying to look out for the family, doing what was right to maintain our abilities. I've done that, and I'm now retired from that industry. So now it's time to give back more to the community. I've always been a community person, but now I have the opportunity to step up and do the job full time that so many people wish they could do.
Now, I know with the COVID situation affecting the local economy so badly, how has it affected sales tax revenues in the district that really are needed for projects and other issues, such as transportation?
Well, I'm sure that it's impacted sales taxes throughout the state, Quintin. Exact numbers for Dorchester County for Senate District 38, I do not know. But
Okay.
I do know that the July stats say that there were quite a few layoffs in the retail industry and transportation, about 4 or 5 industries majorly impacted by COVID.
Wow. And obviously, COVID-19 is impacting a whole lot of people's lives and jobs right now. What is the quality of life in District 38 as you know it?
District 38 quality of life is excellent, Quintin. In fact, it's better than a lot of places. Dorchester County in general has always been a go-to place to live. Of course, we're a bedroom community for the metropolitan Charleston area, and quality of life here is good. Always room for improvement, but it's good.
Good. And talk to me about how you established your relationship with the constituents of District 38.
I have not yet, but my plan is to reach out at every opportunity. In running for the Senate, I realized that a senator can't do his job well without staying in touch with the constituency. Now, I realize it's not a House seat, and the House is a little bit differently focused than Senate, but we have to stay in touch enough to know what's on the people's minds, because the people in Senate District 38 will inform laws and legislation for the entire state of South Carolina. So right here is where I can know what the people are thinking, and then of course apply research, apply deliberation, apply communications to help the entire state of South Carolina as a senator.
And you know, many people in District 38 want a clean, ethical, and accountable government. How transparent and ethical will you be as a state senator?
I don't think anyone can be more transparent or ethical, Quintin. As a Democrat, I am running specifically for the benefit of the people. Now, I always get onto a thing about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness documented in our Declaration of Independence. And the reason I go to that so often is because it's a root cause. The whole point for America's existence is to enable life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness by its citizens. Now, I realize that the state of South Carolina has a little bit different focus. The state of South Carolina uh, states that as life, liberty, and property. Well, we won't go back to why that property is there in lieu of pursuit of happiness. But the thing is, Quintin, when it comes to life, life is the ultimate importance, whether it be Black life, whether it be babies' lives, whether it be white lives, Hispanic lives, whether it be thug lives. It is essential. It is critical for us to protect life. What does that mean? It means ensuring that law enforcement goes out to truly protect and serve the communities. It means ensuring that health care is there so that folks can get care when needed. Uh, we cannot work, we cannot support an economy if we do not have health. Uh, Protecting life means a livable wage. We have to have wages that will enable us to pursue happiness, that will enable us to grow our savings to the point where we can pursue the American dream of home ownership. We have to have those things. Life is the principal thing.
And you talk about the accountability. Let me ask you this, John. What tax credit? And honestly, let me talk to you more about that because how much tax revenue has District 38 in your mind lost over the past 2 years?
I have no idea. I have no idea
Okay.
how much tax revenue would have been lost over the past 2 years. Uh,
Let me ask you this. What economic and educational opportunities do you hope affordable housing will bring to your district?
I'm trying to make the connection between affordable housing and
Sure,
education there.
sure.
Okay. Uh, Education, regardless of housing costs, is a necessity, whether it be K 12 education, workforce education, or university education. Education is principle. The only way that we can lift ourselves up out of poverty, and I speak firsthand, I grew up in poverty, first person in my household to go to college. And the only way that I'm retired now and able to spend the time running for Senate is because of the education that I obtained from grade school through master's education. So that is essential. Now, as far as affordable housing, being able to afford education as an adult is tied to affordable housing. Why? Because we have to have a place to live in order to apply ourselves. I'm thinking of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to have the food, clothing, and shelter to enable us to be our best selves. So when it comes to affordable housing, Dorchester County, Senate District 38, doesn't have the exact same issues as perhaps a downtown Charleston area. Okay, housing is expensive here as well, but not as expensive as in the downtown Charleston situation. So I know that you're familiar with the areas covered by Senate District 38. They
Sure.
include the majority of Dorchester County and a
Right,
small part of Charleston County
right,
in the in its northernmost extremes, a small part of Berkeley County in its southernmost extremes.
right.
So these are the areas where a lot of the folks who have been displaced by gentrification have actually moved to. Okay, the
That's
housing
right.
is a little bit more affordable, but unless we have livable wages, no one can afford to own a home. They might afford an apartment, which are springing up all over the place now. They're expensive too, but they cannot afford home ownership in an area where house prices are averaging in the $200,000 range.
Well, let me ask you this, John. What's your comprehensive plan for economic inclusion in the district?
I don't have a comprehensive plan yet, Quintin. I'm trying to get there. As a newcomer to politics, I don't have the foundation laid that my competition or some others would.
Okay.
But it's something that I'm focusing on and growing, learning about. First thing is to become elected, then I will spend every waking hour becoming the senator that we need to, again, get employment, housing, healthcare, and yes, even business, Quentin. Business is essential to a growing community. So even though I'm a Democrat, I realize that there is great value in enabling small businesses, mid-sized businesses, and to a degree, large businesses to thrive in our communities. So all of that I have to work on, but I will not work alone.
How about minority owned businesses?
Uh, be a little more specific for me, can you?
How many minority owned businesses do you want to bring to District 38?
I do not have a target goal for minority owned businesses new to Senate District 38. Startups in this district trail the statewide average. So I'm looking for everyone, minority or not, to have the ability, the inroads, if you will, and the support from government to bring industry in that will make this a better place to live.
Let me turn to criminal justice reform and educational reform. What bills would you draft right now if you were in the state senate?
Well, with all of the drama, with all of the impacts to our communities, uh, from the killings, of course, throughout the nation, I believe that law enforcement reform is important. Now, don't get me wrong. I strongly value our law enforcement community. If I pick up the phone and dial 911 due to a accident or break-in or whatever, I value the fact that those folks are out there and supporting the community. I'm saying that it can be done better. We have to get to the point where law enforcement understands that they are there to serve a community and that there are some times to disengage, to take the intensity level down several notches when dealing with community members. That's important. I would also seek to educate the community to know and understand what law enforcement, what EMS services, what firemen are doing when they come to them. We've got to talk more. We've got to communicate better so that we understand each other and so that we support each other more.
What options would you use as far as disengaging?
Well, I worked with some community groups with law enforcement before. Uh, right now, and I understand that law enforcement seeks to control every situation because they are highly responsible. There's lives at stake. So they seek to control the situation when they're encountering uh, ten, uh, crime or potential crime or reported issues in the community. They want to control the situation. Control is good, but when it becomes a conflict with de-escalating, with dealing with people with mental health issues, then we have to think about how we're doing it. Uh, Quentin, I'm going to mention something to you that I haven't publicized yet.
Okay.
One of the ways that I feel we can improve law enforcement engagement with the community is to push for certifications. In my old position, in my prior pre-retirement days, I was a certified project manager. And what that certification entails is understanding the industry from top to bottom so that we all speak the language, so that we know how to deal with customers, so that we know how to document changes and workflow and so on. As a certified project manager, I can go from here in Charleston, South Carolina to an extreme, maybe Midwest or Washington State, and everyone recognizes what is meant by that certification. If I'm carrying that certification, they know that I know certain things and that I have been supporting the industry uh, in my certification period. With law enforcement, the way I understand it, Quentin, if I'm a police officer in Somerville and perhaps a community has an issue with me and I get fired from Somerville Police Department, I can go right down the street and be hired by another agency that is not aware of the issues that my prior community had with me. So, what I'm saying to you is, I believe that a national certification for police officers would be a strong support for having a professional police department that knows how to deal with the community, that has a transparent background so that whoever hires that officer is aware of any issues in the background as well as any commendations in his background. I believe that a national law enforcement certification would benefit all of America and especially small towns here in South Carolina.
And what issues are you aware of when it comes to mental health in District 38?
Well, I do know that there is a community that demands the services of our state government, our uh, Department of Health and environmental people, the private industry, and goodwill and organizations like them. There are people who are born with disabilities, no fault of their own, who need the supports of the community, just like anyone else, in order to become productive citizens. That should be the goal, no matter what the ailment, no matter what the issue, whether it be mental, physical imperatives, what have you. All of us should be trying to help each other become good citizens. Why? Because it's good for the community.
And I know earlier you talked a lot about education, and I wanted to jump right into it because obviously you mentioned on your page that college and career education is expensive, while K 12 education is still falling. Where is K 12 education falling in your district? Or failing, I should say.
Dorchester District 2 has a great reputation for K 12 education, a great reputation, and well deserved. Uh, as I mentioned, I've worked for Charleston County School District, Jasper County School District,
Right.
and the State Department of Education. What I've seen, Quentin, in my years of service to K 12 is that there are systems, there are plans, but they don't focus enough on the individual. Yes, there are programs such as the IEPs and so on that help certain students progress through, but we have got to get to the point where we do that for every student. I've told someone that having a teacher, a single teacher, sit in the classroom trying to teach 30 students at one time, it's almost nonsensical because those 30 students all have individual needs. They all have individual needs. So we've got to get to the point where we know what each student needs. We know the milestones, we know the checkpoints, we have the identifiers that say when they have mastered any particular subject or any particular task. And we can take that every student, and track their development, taking them from task to task, from level to level, and we've got to do that effectively. While we're using technology quite a bit in education, we are not using it to that point yet. And I feel that when we get there, when we can apply that without all the background things of social class and innate abilities and so on, when we can apply that and help those students, when we can arrange their victories in a logical way, then we will have reached the point where we are truly succeeding in K 12 education.
How do you apply that technology to the rural areas to make certain that they have broadband?
Well, rural or city, a student is a student. Once the educators, those at the topmost level, state departments of education, U.S. Department of Education, and so on,
Right.
know what those levels, what those steps are to learn and master material, then whether we're local in a rural area or in a city, we should be working toward that. We have to design those systems first. Broadband is a infrastructure item that is necessary to support that because typically that that infrastructure is needed to communicate with the internet, systems, services, and so on in order to enable that success. Now, the broadband that is needed in a community to make that happen, because of the way South Carolina is organized, is going to have to be a local issue. The way that we have it organized in South Carolina is utilities are not countywide, they're not regional. They are basically it's free commerce to serve any particular area. Here in Senate District 38, we don't have a broadband issue to a great extent. I believe that 90% plus of the households have 1 gig internet or better available. There's uh, areas in our district that are served by cable, by fiber
Right.
companies,
Right.
where the broadband is not up to speed. But we have groups at the state level who are working on that. We have um, industries moving into Dorchester County all along, Dorchester, Charleston, and Berkeley counties, who are able to supply broadband access. I don't want to name any companies, but
Sure.
we
Right.
have about three of them, three or four of them in the area. But at the state level, that is a great focus. Quintin, it is something that I actually had to do in my former career. I don't know if you're familiar with the southern part of Charleston County
Sure.
down along the Colleton County lines and so on.
Yeah, love
But
those people.
I actually worked with companies to bring broadband across the Edisto River into the southern parts of Charleston County so that those students in the Ravenel, Hollywood area could gain access to broadband. So I
Sure.
understand what the state is doing, understand how they're going about doing it. It's not a major issue here in Dorchester County, Charleston County, Berkeley County, and Senate 38 areas, but there are many areas throughout the state. And I will work with those senators in whatever capacity I can to make sure that every student, no matter where they are, have what they need to be educated.
Now, before you spoke about infrastructure in that last answer there, you talked obviously, about the systems. What exactly are those systems?
Systems or assistance, which
Oh, systems. Systems. I'm sorry.
systems?
Yes,
Well,
sir.
broadband in general is a communication pathway. Think of it as a water hose for the non-technical. Uh, in other words, if you have a fire hose, you can you can put out a backyard fire with no issue. If all you've got is a half-inch garden hose, then you might need help. So the whole point of broadband is to make the hoses, the pipes to those communities bigger so that we can get data into and out of those communities. If I'm sitting in the Ridgeville area of Senate District 38 and
Right.
I have only uh, uh, let's say 25 megabyte of internet service, then I will not have the ability to enjoy quality of service the way that my counterpart down in North Charleston would enjoy it. So that infrastructure is needed in order to get data into and out of communities. Now, Senate District 38, the this part of Dorchester County in general is
Right.
well equipped. But the next step, in John's opinion, is for us as a Senate to not only get the throughput at 200 megabit per second or 1 gig, but also to get symmetric service so that the downloads and the uploads can be done at the same speed. Right
Sure.
now, we have kids sitting at home in their living rooms trying to provide teachers work over the internet, and that teacher is limited because really the upload capacity, if you will, is nowhere near what she can do on a download. So those students are limited in the amount of data that they can share. Those multimedia projects that they were accustomed to doing in the classroom face to face,
Right.
I don't think they want to try that right now in a hybrid or remote teaching environment.
Now, should the state make internet a utility?
It essentially is already. It essentially is already. In fact, we have quite a few resources at state government right now already focused on the K-12 issue.
Sure.
I don't know if you're familiar with Act 142 or not,
Right.
but it's all about getting the wireless access to those students who are needed. Now, um, Wi-Fi is not considered essential, or wasn't before the COVID-19
Right.
outbreak. It
Right.
wasn't considered as essential as electrical utilities or water or so on. So there is no government infrastructure to bring that to the citizenry. I think that that may change over
Okay.
time,
Okay.
and I'm willing to work with my peers in the Senate when I'm elected to make that happen. Uh,
Okay.
it's something that needs to happen.
And quickly, I know it's raining out here, but should fiber lines ever be placed in rural areas of South Carolina? Yes or no?
I understand you want a yes or no, but let me say it this way.
Okay.
Technology changes so often that fiber lines may or may not be the best investment. It may not be the best way to bring that service to rural areas.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you is, should there be high capacity broadband available in rural areas? Absolutely.
Okay.
If that if the only way to do that is via fiber, fine. But fiber is expensive to get there. And right
Sure.
now, we're requiring private industries to make that investment to get the fiber to those rural areas. If they can find a better way, whether it be point to point over towers or whatever, give them that leeway. The point is, we need the end user in those rural areas to have the same quality of service as the city dwellers.
And the rain stopped a little bit, so I could couple two more questions. You also talk about obviously zoning regulations in District 38. You said this quote: "Our zoning regulations are antiquated, causing unnecessary sprawl and the accompanying traffic and pollution." What regulations has caused the sprawl, the traffic, and pollution in your district?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, Quentin, is a conversation that I had with one of our city councilmen some time ago. And it's all about how builders are permitted to build in specific areas. Of course, that's via zoning. So in my area, I've seen some land sitting vacant, unused for years. And then all of a sudden, there were apartments going up in tremendous numbers. When those apartments went up in tremendous numbers, then the service stations and all those things came with it. Well, the infrastructure, the roadways in and out of my community haven't changed. So what that means is, well, I need to fix that. They have
Okay.
changed, but not to the better. Okay, when a high school went up in the area, then the traffic didn't change for a while, but then about a year later, medians were added so that we can now no longer turn left and right at some of the places where traffic used to flow. Okay. Following that, by about a year, then that's when the development for the apartments and the gas stations and so on came,
Right.
but with reduced throughput. I'm thinking of those water hoses that we just talked about with the
Sure.
broadband.
Right.
With the reduced roads, which are bigger hoses that allow traffic to move, we've added all kinds of population, but haven't given any additional pathways in and out of the community. Dorchester County as a whole is the same way. Quentin, let me tell you something. In
Yes, sir.
Dorchester County, we are a bedroom community. Most folks do not live and work in Dorchester County. Okay? Uh, in fact, 2/3, I would guess, work outside of the county in which we live. Okay, so what that means is those roadways, those hoses, those conduits out of the community to the workplace are being stretched the more development we see come in. I challenge you, if you haven't done it in a while, drive from Somerville area to North Charleston on Dorchester Road during rush hour. I dare you to try to get any place quickly. Try to go out Highway 17A from the Colleton County line to Berkeley County during rush hour. I challenge you, Quintin, to get on Interstate 26 at Ridgeville and try to go to downtown Charleston during rush hour. Those are not good experiences for our community. We need zoning, we need transportation, we need pathways that do not use the largest arteries available for every resident to get from point A to point B. Those are zoning issues. Those are transportation department issues. Those are Dorchester County Council issues that I plan to help with as a senator.
Now, let me ask you this. Let me pick up where you just left off. Pathways. Where are they, and how could you get that established?
It takes study. Right now, the pathways are all along the Ashley River or Interstate 26 into downtown Charleston.
Right.
Those things will have to be fixed. And of course, we have to know that there is work starting already on the mass transit along Rivers Avenue out of Charleston County to the bedroom communities. Those things have to be fixed. We're using the same pathways over and over again. So what that means is eventually communities will be pushed out as those pathways grow. Instead, why not look at other pathways? I realize that we love the beautiful trees along Highway 61 and we love the quaint atmospheres and so on. But at some point, there's going to have to be a bridge that leads out of Charleston or Dorchester County across the Ashley River into some of those bedroom communities along 61. Okay, I believe that is eventually going to happen.
Okay.
Right now, the only ways across are Bacon's Bridge Road to the north or all the way down in Charleston County via the Poplar Grove and 17 routes. Of course, Berkeley County has some of the same issues where we have lots of folks coming from Berkeley County into Charleston County to work, and then all of us trying to get home at night. Those pathways have to be fixed. We have to look at our regional authorities, the councils of governments, again, right. Department of Transportation, local, county, and city councils. We have to find better ways to do this, else we are stressing the quality of life for all of the folks who live here and those who are coming.
Where's the infrastructure?
It's not there now. It's not there now. It's up to us to get together and figure out ways to do it. Right now, it appears to me, I haven't been at the table, but it appears to me that the plan has always been to grow the pipes that already exist. From the time that I-26 was built up until now, that pipe has grown. Do you know the most congested place in the area right now is that stretch of I-26 between Ashley Phosphate Road and I-526. Right. That's the most congested space in the area right now. Why did we do that instead of bringing alternate pathways into the city? I don't know the answer. Probably the answer was it was easiest. But the easy way is not always the best way for the long term. It's up to the Senate and all the agencies that govern us to find better ways that will do it long term.
John, do you have any confidence in the Department of Transportation right now?
I actually do. I think that they do a great job with where the vision apparently is right now, but it's up to government to give that department better vision. It's up to local governments to ensure that their voices are heard about what the local community needs. Every day, 60,000 people leave my part of Dorchester County to work in Charleston and Berkeley. At home, at night, those same 60,000 people travel back. It is a part of their quality of life to make that commute less painful. Oh, that's one of the things that I miss least since I retired. And I want to make that more palatable for those folks who are out in the workforce, out there trying to serve our kids, out there trying to serve the public. It has to
Sure.
be better.
Now, you talk about those visions, and I might be redundant by accident this, but where is your vision?
Where is my vision? I want to make quality of life better for all of us. I want to look at the problems, the traffic, the K-12 education, law enforcement, uh, healthcare, all of those things, and sit there. My unique skill, Quintin, is being able to ask the right question. It doesn't make me famous, but it makes me effective. Being able to ask the right question. If someone at the table proposes um, a new road here or there,
Right.
then I'm very good at getting to the essence of how that road will impact the community. If someone asks, Quintin, should we send fiber to those rural communities? I have a broad enough background to say, wait a minute, fiber may not be the best path to get them what they need. Let's find out what the best way is to get that rural community what they need instead of doing what is constantly done in the past. In industry, we used to call it thinking outside the box. We have got to think outside the box as we address every issue. And we've got to be flexible enough to work with each other so that we don't simply do and redo the same thing over and over because it's the established way. We have to find better ways to serve our people.
What is the established way when it comes to trying to find affordable housing, or excuse me, affordable healthcare in your district?
My district does not have a unique way to find affordable health care. That's not a local issue. That is typically not a local issue. That is a state government, federal government issue. The way that a senator can impact that is when the governor decides whether or not to extend Medicare or something along its lines to a population that needs it throughout the state of South Carolina, then that's where a senator has input, I pray. Okay? I've still got to figure out how those communications flow back and forth to our governor. I know that it's through the leading senators, but we have to ferret out exactly what those communication paths are and present alternatives. We have to make sure that we're all educated so that the governor or the president can make the right decisions. We have to have communications passed to our U.S. senators, to our U.S. congressmen, so that when they are legislating on behalf of South Carolina and the entire nation, that they know how South Carolinians feel about health care.
Now, let me ask you this, Mr. John. Are there any alternatives when it comes to absentee voting?
Absolutely. In South Carolina, we don't do early voting per se, so
Right.
let's not confuse it with that term. But absentee voting is typically limited to the folks who are 65 or over, those folks who have obligations to work, jury duty, military, et cetera, et cetera. Well, there are some options, and they are actually in process as we speak, so that this coming general election, in the midst of this still COVID-19 pandemic, are adjusted so that we don't have thousands and thousands of people standing in line, out in the rain, etc., for trying to exercise our rights to vote. The primaries that happened in June
Right.
were actually good in that the government had given us the ability to vote absentee in person or absentee by mail. Or absentee by mail. Now, this coming election, we didn't have that choice, but they're working on it. I understand that the House made some moves yesterday, actually,
Right.
to extend those COVID uh, uh, privileges
Sure.
for absentee voting to the public. And I'm glad to hear that. But absentee by mail or absentee in person will relieve those long lines and those crowds as we vote on election day. I would advise everyone who can to vote absentee in person if at all possible. What that means is they go to the designated sites during the times that have been identified for absentee in person voting. They can
Right.
get their application to vote absentee right there on the spot, no touch, if they follow the rules.
Right.
Get that ballot, that application signed, vote right there on the spot, and come election day, they can do something constructive like get out and work the polls, or they can stay at home to avoid the crowds if that's what they feel necessary. But I
Sure.
would encourage everyone to vote absentee in person if at all possible. If that is not possible, they can vote absentee by mail up until I believe it's November 2nd.
Yes.
So I would suggest that they get online, go to scvotes.org,
Yes.
get that absentee ballot, get it signed, put that stamp on it if necessary, and get it turned in, I would say 2 weeks before election day. So that
Sure.
all this U.S. mail, U.S. Postal Service drama does not impact their vote. So we
Okay.
have to vote. If we want to enjoy the benefits of democracy, we have to exercise our right to vote.
And unfortunately, I'm running out of time because rain is coming down. But John Lowe, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you.